It's nearly 2 weeks since Grounded 2's big surprise reveal at the Xbox showcase, and we got a ton of info in that first week. A dev blog, a big massive podcast, and then lots of articles and interviews from various journalist sites. But the last few days have been a bit dry. However, there have been a few little nuggets of info that some people might find interesting, and I didn't really feel like it was worth doing a video on, not separately at least, but it's collected enough together now to talk about some stuff that may be important. So today we're going to talk about Grounded and hopefully trying to improve their multiplayer. Also, what's going on with the release time? When exactly is Grounded 2 going to be playable for everyone? Also going to go over who is exactly making Grounded 2, how the original Grounded devs have laid the foundations and groundwork so that Eidos Montreal as well as some of the Obsidian team are going to carry on making Grounded universe even better. Plus, nearly 200% more players are now playing Grounded 1 with all the hype. And what's going on with Hoops and Pete? Are we about to see our first proper love story? Let's go. True Achievements, the Xbox Tracker site, has revealed that 190% player boost has happened with the original Grounded. So that means in their chart, it's gone from 88 on the Xbox charts to 23, making it more popular than Elden Ring. Of course, the big thing is there probably won't be achievements with the game preview launch. It's very rare to game preview have achievements. It is meant to be early access, and this will be something that gets added over time, just like the original. It's great to see so many more people interested in the original. And you know what? It's perfect because I want to do so much more before we move on to Grounded 2. I'm going to finish off my New Game Plus and I'm going to start one more fresh run. And yep, on Steam as well, there's been a huge increase in players. Just before the reveal in the month of June, it slipped down to only 4,000 from a peak of 12,000 in the last year at least from the last hotfix update or quality of life update. But it's up to 10,000 now already with anticipation about the sequel. So yeah, a lot of interest back in Grounded again. So Capital reached out to me to ask what time it said on the Xbox app Grounded 2 would release. Now we've all been told it's the 29th, but of course it's not always the 29th in other parts of the world. But Capital, on his actual Xbox app in Brazil, it says Grounded 2 is coming out on the 28th. So if it goes live on the 29th, literally at bang on midnight, then it'll be at like 8 o'clock in Brazil. That kind of makes sense. There is an official event in the Grounded Discord, and it does say Tuesday 29th of July at 8 AM. So this is where the confusion comes from, because if it's going live at 8 AM, well, that means it's 4 AM in Brazil, and that will be the 29th, not the 28th. 8 AM means midnight in American time in Los Angeles, where Grounded Obsidian team are based. So basically, there's a little bit of confusion. When is Grounded going to release? We've been told the 29th. It could be, if it's going live at the same time worldwide, it may actually be on the 28th for some people. Again, that seems pretty obvious. So if it's showing as the 28th for people in Brazil, that means it's actually going to be a lot earlier for people even in LA or the rest of America as well. As we get closer on the Steam page, it generally will update. Usually the last few days, it will literally even give a time or the day itself. I'm sure we'll get a bit more clarification. But yeah, just figure it was interesting. Wherever you are in the world, let me know if you've got the Xbox app, what time, what day it says for you. It's not a huge deal, and like I said, it's pretty obvious. Not everywhere it's going to be the same time all over the world. But usually, if they're saying the 29th, that really applies to like American time. And game preview games, I can't remember them ever really launching bang on midnight. Normally it's something that happens with like an update in the morning for the UK, but usually late morning. Especially Game Pass games too. Can't lie, I'm hoping it really is 8 o'clock in the morning. It goes live for me. I'll be up nice, fresh and early, and I'll be banging out obviously lots of content. I'll probably be streaming actually for hours beforehand. But yeah, something to bear in mind. Yesterday there was a big interview article with the founders of Obsidian talking about all their success in the last year or so. In fact, how they've managed to pump out 3 games this year, including Avowed of course and Outer Worlds 2 later on. Fergus Urquhart is the pretty much a big honcho at Obsidian. Grounded 2 is actually a good example of our growth as a developer. We could not do what we're doing right now if we didn't have great development partners and co-dev partners. Grounded 2 has been in development for just under 2 years, meaning it entered production around a year after the release of 1.0 and a year before Survival Adventure made its way to PS5, PS4 and the Switch. The Grounded team were relatively small. It mixed out in the 20s, says Chris Parker, Obsidian co-founder and Grounded 2 game director. When we started thinking about Grounded 2, it was fortuitous how it worked out. because we wound up talking to Eidos about some other stuff, and it turned out they had a small team who absolutely loved Grounded. They were almost pitching us on the sequel. From there, a significant team up at Eidos and a relatively large group at Obsidian came together to push Grounded 2 through production. Grounded 1's game director Adam Brennicki, its lead programmer Roby Aterdero, art director Kazunori Aruga, and along with 6 other principal leads and a small internal steering group at Obsidian, joined Parker to collaborate closely with Eidos. We're constantly at each other's offices, we're talking about stuff daily. It's a really healthy relationship, and because they actually love the game at Eidos, it's not like this dispassionate contractor that we've hired. They're bringing all their stuff to the table, says Parker. Grounded 2 producer Miles Winzella says, Obsidian and Eidos have similar design goals as studios, we really mesh well together. It's also the difference between the two of them that's been a big strength. It means Grounded 2 will feel like its own piece as they're able to flex what they're best at too. So you guys mentioned a few times that I figured Adam Brennicki and some of the team might not actually be working as closely on Grounded 2, maybe moving on to a bigger or another project. Now while this does say that they're still working on it, I think this actually relies to production of the game rather than necessarily continuing working on the game. But either way, I'm just really pleased that we are going to see the DNA of the original Grounded team who did such a great job actually in Grounded 2. And I'm sure Eidos are going to bring some really cool new things to the actual game. And that's more or less it. Obsidian pretty much focus on just talking about how their partnerships with other games have been able to mean they can put out a ton of games. Only maybe last thing to note is that some technology from Grounded is in Avowed, and technology from Avowed is going to be in Grounded 2, and that the overall game is headed up by Chris Parker. So maybe that brings us on to the next thing. Eurogamer seems to have a bee in their bonnet about local co-op. Now don't get me wrong, I know some of you guys have always wanted to see split screen in Grounded. And it's true, it would be absolutely great if it was, but I've explained in the past how it would be technically hard with the way that they developed Grounded. So what about the sequel? Well, it doesn't look like that's happening either. That would have been one of the first things I'm sure they would have showed off. And while you can't rule it out completely until the devs actually do, I highly doubt we're going to see split screen added. But this piece from Eurogamer is actually focused on playing in the same house on different devices. Grounded 2 will be consistent with the prior game and does not support LAN multiplayer. Now I'm all for giving some feedback and constructive criticism, and God knows a lot of us know how bad multiplayer can be with the lag and desync sometimes when you're trying to play with people. And that's not even if you're just across the world, even when you're in the same country, city, town or even house sometimes. It is a little bit on the ropey side. It's probably one of the few criticisms you could level at Grounded, that they never maybe got there enough in making sure that feedback and playing with others really matched. And if you want to test that yourself, go and play some PvP with your friends. Have some battles in a bug arena or a playgrounds map, and you'll often hear people complaining and crying about lag. Now that's not just unique to Grounded, so many games rely on peer-to-peer kind of gameplay. So your friends basically join you on your internet connection rather than joining a server where servers normally have better connection. But I've played a ton of other games in the past with peer-to-peer, and while it's never really ideal, it definitely has always been a little bit better than Grounded. Even Valheim, which supports 10 players, is pretty decent with 4 or 5. It's only when you get to like the 8, 9 or 10 players and maybe everyone building big bases that the game starts to chug a little bit. With LAN play, you're both connecting to your local Wi-Fi, and so you don't necessarily have as much lag as going via internet. So I do get the complaint, but it's a bit of a weird flex given that Eurogamer have done like literally hardly any kind of articles on Grounded. Pretty much only one talking about the reveal, and that is it. And that is it. No talking about the other plus points. No talking about shared saves, which I'm sure are going to be back. Let's just home in and focus on the one negative. So yeah, absolutely constructive criticism and highlighting something that maybe Grounded 2 does need to improve on is cool, but I just didn't like the way it was focused with this one interview and article from this site. There's been a few other articles as well trying to shoehorn in all sorts of weird technology into Grounded, literally having laser guns. And another one saying that Grounded should have been based in the house. But in that same video, getting so many things wrong with the story and the actual events of Grounded, it made it laughable. I'm totally biased, I'm an absolute fanboy of Grounded for sure, but yeah, it still would be nice to see a little bit more love for I think one of the best games going. Anyway, back to the matters at hand. What about this LAN play or connecting better? The obvious answer is to have proper dedicated servers. This was something they were considering for Grounded 1 until they started to pivot and actually had the shared save system. Now, in my opinion, the shared save system is better because it's often meant that you could literally play on the same world with players and still have that same experience of helping each other out and progressing. Servers, especially for console users, you have to pay for, whereas on PC you can normally host your own. So you're either relying on a friend that can host it and always have it up and running, or you're going to have to pay money to Trado or another site. But it's true, things like a dedicated server does normally mean a little bit less lag. So by now you surely have seen the glow up for the teens. The last two were kind of delayed. We finally got Willow and Max after about a week after seeing Hoops and Pete. But you guys have been crazy in my comments telling me that there is actually maybe a love story brewing between Pete and Willow. Does it literally all stem from this one screenshot of the actual teens with a little love heart? But it would make sense for a group of teens, for some of them to maybe start having some feelings for each other. This isn't a big deal to me, but for lore nerds out there, I'm sure this is rocking your world. Absolutely everyone is loving Pete's glow up. That seems to be the biggest comments I've seen so far, that Pete is just looking like a Chad. A lot of people are not loving Hoops' haircut or style. And likewise, a lot of you guys that feel that Max is still a bit stuck in the 80s. It's clear to me they're properly basing him on like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And people surprised by Willow's goth, maybe rock appearance. That was pretty much a big thing in the 90s. What's maybe more interesting is the still speculation about what's going on with the Omnant tools. They're clearly customized to maybe fit each team. Now I've been surmising that we might be able to actually customize them ourselves or choose maybe what materials go into it so that we get a finished look once we upgrade it past levels 1, 2 or 3. But it does also make it look like actually these designs are going to be exclusive to the teens. And I just feel like that would piss people off. You know there's going to be some people that really want an Omnant tool since it's something you're going to be looking at so much. That's got maybe Max's slingshot stuff going on, or Willow's little mask here of Alien or whatever it is. But if you can't customize that yourself and you're stuck with just a different design, I can see some people actually getting grumpy about that. Maybe it's not a huge big deal though. You guys let me know. And there's no confirmation as of yet that that is even a thing. It just seems interesting that they have clearly put some of these on every single one of these lockers. There is a reason for this. They've not just left some concept art that isn't going to be implemented. Something is going to happen with our Omnant tools. So there we go guys. Not a huge amount of new crazy stuff. I'm hoping we're going to see some more reveals this week. We've only got literally like under 40 days to go. And I'm going to be there every step of the way. I've told you guys I'm going massive on Grounded 2. It's going to be my sole focus all over August. So go and check out some other videos if you haven't already. I've done a bunch with speculation, deep dives into the info we do know, and talking about what you guys want to see, including the 10 creatures you want added. So until next time, I'll see you ratbags later.